Discovering the miraculous role of the husband, shocking truths revealed for divine transformation. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Abraham stood upon the threshold of his tent, gazing up at the vast, starlit sky beyond Ur of the Chaldeans. The night was luminous, each star shimmering like a divine promise. "Count the stars," the voice of Yahweh had echoed in his heart, "if indeed you can count them, so shall your descendants be." Yet despite the promise that filled those starry heavens, doubt wove through his heart like a shadow. The weight of his unfulfilled longing for an heir pressed heavily upon him. This was not an easy call. To leave all that he had known, the comforts of his homeland, the familiarity of his people, Abraham had to rise in unwavering faith. With Sarah, his beloved wife, by his side, he placed each step upon the path laid before him, a pilgrimage into the unknown. Yet as seasons turned, the promise of descendants felt as distant as the stars themselves. Sarah's womb remained barren, and with each passing year, the fire of impatience consumed her. The silence grew deafening in their tent. In her desperation, Sarah turned to worldly wisdom, offering Hagar, her maidservant, in the hope of fulfilling the covenant through her. Abraham, though troubled, consented, and Hagar bore Ishmael, a child that stirred the house in ways the couple had not foreseen. Conflict erupted, bitterness took root, and the once harmonious bond between husband and wife frayed. Abraham's heart wrestled between love for Sarah and the complicating reality of Hagar's presence. Understandably, he stumbled, caught in the snares of his own making, longing for peace and unity that seemed ever elusive, but amidst it all, a divine whisper broke forth with renewed promise: "I will bless her." God's voice pierced the chaos with the assurance that Sarah would bear a son, Isaac, and through him, the covenant would remain. This revelation pulled Abraham out of despair and into a world of sublime hope. How ironclad was the call to faith! He mustered the courage to support Sarah, to lift her spirit and remind her of God's unwavering faithfulness, and as the years unfolded, the miraculous laughter of Isaac filled the air, a testament to the power of faith when buttressed by trust in God's word. A new chapter was written, one that glorified God's fidelity and the unity of heart and soul within Abraham and Sarah. Yet even as they celebrated, a great test loomed on the horizon, threatening to shake the very foundation of Abraham's faith and leadership as a husband. What awaited them in their journey through Canaan? What trials would challenge their devotion and reshape their understanding of divine promise? The weight of anticipation filled the air, weaving a complex tapestry of faith, love, and coming trials, an intersection where the eternal purpose of God would echo through generations. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As laughter filled their home, the newness of life danced within them, yet the journey ahead concealed not only joys but trials that would test the depth of their convictions. With each step forward, mysteries of the heart entwined with the promises of God beckoned forth, and so their story continued under the watchful eye of a God who never forgets his covenant. As the days pressed onward, Abraham and Sarah thrived in their newfound joy, reveling in the laughter of Isaac, whose very name echoed the blissful surprise of God's grace. Yet a shadow loomed over the horizon, and unease stirred within the heart of Abraham as he remembered the promise given to him: "As for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you throughout their generations." Genesis 17 verse 9. An uneasy weight settled upon him, for the path of faith was seldom smooth, and tests of loyalty were marked by trials that would soon unfold. One day, as the sun rose high above the land, Abraham beheld the clouds gathering in the distance. They whispered of both blessing and challenge. The Lord's voice came again, though this time it held the resonance of a storm: "Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I shall tell you." Genesis 22 verse 2. Abraham's heart trembled at the command, a divine explosion sending ripples through his very soul. How could this be, he thought, wrestling with the agony of such a command? Isaac, the child of promise, was the very embodiment of hope and an heir to the covenant. As he stood at the brink of unimaginable sacrifice, a tempest of confusion and horror threatened to pull him apart. There, upon the mountain of Moriah, the cost of his faith would be tested. As Abraham prepared to leave for the appointed place, the air thickened with tension. He donned the same cloak that had once shielded him from the elements during his journey from Ur, now cloaking him in the burdens of his decision. Isaac, innocent and cherubic, looked up to his father with eyes gleaming with a trust that cut through Abraham like a dagger. "Father, where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" he inquired, his voice harmonizing fear with curiosity. Abraham answered, the words tasting bitter on his tongue, "My son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering." Genesis 22 verse 8. His heart recoiled at the deceitfulness of hope mingled with despair, but he pressed on, clinging to God's promise that could not falter. As the two approached the altar of sacrifice, Abraham built an altar, arranging the wood with trembling hands. A battle waged within him, where faith clashed with paternal instinct, and love wrestled with the piercing command of the Almighty. He bound Isaac, placing him upon the altar, this act an echo of surrender that transcended the ordinary. In that moment of silence before the sacrifice, the heavens seemed to hold their breath. Then, lifting the knife with a heart heavy and obedient, his spirit sought God's assurance amidst the overwhelming darkness around him. Just as he prepared to strike his only son, the heavens burst forth with divine intervention. A voice, clear and thunderous, called out, "Abraham! Abraham!" Genesis 22 verse 11. With heart racing, he blinked against the agonizing reality. "Here I am," he responded, surrendering his will. "Do not lay your hand on the lad, or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." Genesis 22 verse 12. The knife fell from his hand as a fresh wave of understanding washed over him. In that moment, Abraham looked and beheld a ram caught in the thicket, a testament to God's provision even in the midst of trial. With trembling hands, he offered it instead, declaring with renewed clarity, "The Lord will provide." Genesis 22 verse 14. Yet the weight of this revelation carved deeper understanding within his heart. Was this not a glimpse of the divine plan, a foreshadowing of sacrifices yet to come? And in the aftermath, the angel of the Lord spoke once more, "By myself I have sworn, declares the Lord, because you have done this thing, and have not withheld your son, your only son, in blessing, I will bless you." Genesis 22 verses 16 to 17. What divine twists awaited this faithful man and the people that would come from him? How would God's sovereign will manifest in the generations to follow? As the altar smoldered in the dawn light, a new chapter awaited, one that entwined the strength of love and faith in the overarching narrative of God's unyielding promise echoing beyond Abraham, reaching toward an ultimate sacrifice. As Abraham descended from the mountain, the echoes of divine proclamation lingered in his heart. The words of the angel resounded like a heavenly benediction, heralding not only personal victory but the unfurling of a greater tapestry woven by God himself. He gathered Isaac in his arms, embracing the boy as a testament to God's mercy and provision. Isaac beamed, oblivious to the depths of sacrifice that had just transpired, his laughter ringing like a melody of faith renewed. Yet as dawn broke, a stirring unease etched itself into the shadows of Abraham's heart. Each step away from Moriah bore the imprint of a heavy promise, a promise that was now intertwined with the very future of nations. Returning to Beersheba, he sought solace, yet the air still crackled with divine expectation. Days turned into weeks as life resumed its familiar rhythms. Sarah, albeit unaware of the depths of Abraham's trial, sensed a shift in her husband. Gone was the carefree mirth that had accompanied the laughter of Isaac, rather, the weight of promise and obedience forged a new strength within him. She watched as he sought the Lord in fervent prayer, his heart attuned to the whispers of the Almighty. In the stillness of one evening, while the stars dotted the sky like promises unfulfilled, Abraham heard the voice of the Lord once more, "I am the God of your father, Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you." Genesis 26 verse 24. Trembling, he fell to his knees, feeling both the warmth of God's presence and the magnitude of his commission reflected in that promise. The Lord continued, "You will be the father of many nations, and your descendants shall shine like the stars in the heavens." Genesis 22 verse 17. Yet the weight of what lay ahead burdened his spirit. Would he be able to lead these peoples in faith? The untold struggles and tribulations echoed in his ears as he envisioned his children scattering, each tasked with the legacy of faith. Meanwhile, Isaac grew stronger in body and spirit, his trust in his father unwavering, unaware of the heavenly drama playing out above him. One day, while tending to the flocks, he asked, "Father, why do we seek the land of promise and not return to our familiar ways?" Abraham turned his gaze toward the horizon, feeling the tug of divine sovereignty in the marrow of his bones. "We go, my son, in search of the land that God himself has promised. A land floweth with milk and honey, where our hopes and dreams shall spring forth." In the quiet of the night, as Isaac rested under the canopy of stars, Abraham contemplated the great covenant. He thought of how the Lord had called him out of his homeland, how each step had been a step of faith, intertwined with an ever-unfolding purpose. It was not merely sacrifice that God required, it was an unwavering commitment to trust him even when the path grew dark. That very night, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and he beheld a vision. The heavens opened, and he saw a great multitude, like grains of sand upon the shore and stars in the sky. The Lord spoke, "Know this, your people will face trials and tribulations, but I shall be their God, and they shall be my people." Genesis 17 verse 7. As he awoke, the dawn shimmered with the promise of hope. God's plan unfurled like a scroll, revealing not just the heritage of Isaac, but the lineage leading to nations yet unborn. "His descendants shall bless the earth," the voice echoed within him, "and through them, a light shall illuminate the nations." With every heartbeat, Abraham understood that the sacrifice upon Moriah was but one scene in the vast drama of redemption. What awaited him and the generations to follow remained a glorious mystery, but one thing was certain: the hand of God was making a way. As he rose to meet the day, he felt the pull of the divine promise reaching toward the future, beckoning him into the unknown. Could it be that this was only the beginning of a grand tapestry, spun with the threads of faith, sacrifice, and divine purpose? The heart of God thrummed with a rhythm that resonated beyond his understanding, weaving all things together for good, stirring anticipation for the glorious emergence of a nation destined to bless the world. The days unfolded, and a time of testing was to come, unseen yet inevitable. Abraham's heart, though buoyed by the unfathomable promise of God, remained pregnant with concern. The echoes of past obedience haunted him, reminding him that the path of faith was never devoid of sacrifice. He turned often to prayer, seeking guidance from the God who had called him into the unknown. One warm afternoon, as Abraham sat beneath the oak of Mamre, he raised his gaze to the horizon, the weight of uncertainty pressing heavily upon his shoulders. In the stillness, the Lord appeared again, drawing near with a message that would reshape the days to come. "Abraham," he said, "know that your wife, Sarah, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac." Genesis 17 verse 19. The promise of a child, long sought and yearned for, rang through him like thunder across the mountains. Abraham fell to his face, both in awe and disbelief. "Is it possible," he thought, "that an everlasting covenant could arise for my wife, who is as old as the mountains, her womb long closed as the door to a distant fortress?" But the Lord continued, undeterred by his doubts, "I am the God who brings life from death, hope from despair." Romans 4 verse 17. In that moment, a flicker of joy ignited within him, yet a shadow of worry lingered. Would Sarah embrace this divine promise? He turned then toward his tent, where Sarah stood, listening to the murmurs of the sacred wind. When he revealed the incredible news, disbelief flickered in her eyes. "Shall I, who am old, bear a child?" she questioned, laughter mingling with uncertainty. Genesis 18 verse 12. Abraham regarded her with tenderness, knowing the trials they had both weathered, the seasons of longing and heartache. He took her hands in his and whispered again the words of the promise, inviting her to share in the vision bestowed upon him by God. As weeks passed and time continued its relentless march, the truth began to bloom within Sarah's spirit. The Lord, who opens wombs and grants laughter, stirred a fresh hope within her heart. She wavered not at the thought of impossibility. But even amidst their newfound hope, a messenger from the Lord approached Abraham once more with urgent tidings. The cry of Sodom and Gomorrah has risen high, their wickedness is great, Genesis 18 verse 20. A net of dark foreboding enveloped Abraham, for he had kin in that land, a nephew named Lot. His heart churned with compassion for those souls facing divine reckoning. Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? He pleaded, falling upon the mercy of God. What if there are 50 righteous within the city? Will you spare it? Genesis 18 verse 24. The Lord's merciful voice replied, for the sake of 50, I will not destroy it. Thus began a solemn barter, a sacred negotiation steeped in faith and the very essence of divine love. As he bartered down to 10 righteous, hope waned, and yet, a spark remained. Abraham knew that God's heart was one of justice intertwined with mercy. What the outcome would be remained cloaked in divine mystery, a testament to God's sovereignty even in judgment. Days turned, shadows deepened, and soon the words given in the cool shade of the oak would unfurl even further. Abraham, though wearied by the plight of Sodom and the promise of his son, felt deep within him that God was orchestrating events beyond mere understanding. Yet, beneath the pain of loss and struggle lay a truth more profound. The tapestry of redemption was being woven not just for Abraham and Sarah but for all humanity. And deep in their hearts, they sensed a cadence of something monumental, something so remarkable it would shape the dawn of generations yet to come. Could it be, then, that in the depths of calamity, God's mighty hand would raise a remnant, drawing forth a son of promise who would forge a legendary lineage? What awaited the world through Isaac would be beyond their wildest imaginings, heralding a new covenant, a new hope that would echo through the ages. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the land, the urgency of divine judgment loomed ever nearer. The messengers of God, clad in their celestial authority, had set their feet toward Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities steeped in moral decay. Abraham, though wrestling with the weight of his intercession, felt a stirring within him that compelled him to observe the unfolding events, his heart remaining anchored in the promise given. The 2 angels arrived at the gate of Sodom, weary yet resolute. Lot, ever watchful, took note of their arrival and rushed to meet them, bowing his face to the ground. My lords, turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night, he implored them, and wash your feet, then you may rise early and go on your way. But they said, No, we will spend the night in the open square, Genesis 19 verse 2. As the evening deepened, the city stirred with unsettling zeal, for the depravity that thrived within those walls only grew bolder. Lot urged the guests insistently, and in kindness and hospitality, the angels entered his home. Yet soon, the clamor of wickedness grew louder against Lot's door, and the men of Sodom surrounded the house, calling out for him to deliver his visitors. Bring out the men who came to you, they demanded, that we may know them, Genesis 19 verse 5. Fear gripped Lot's heart, and he stepped outside, closing the door behind him, pleading with the assembled crowd. I beg you, my brethren, do not act so wickedly. In a final desperate attempt to protect his guests, he offered his 2 daughters, untouched and innocent, as a shield against the encroaching tide of shame, yet they scoffed at his offer, their rage swelling, mocking both Lot and the celestial beings within. The angels, now moved by the depth of depravity, reached forth and pulled Lot back, closing the door. They said to him, The outcry against this people has come before the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it, Genesis 19 verse 13. Abraham, on the heights of the hill, sensed a disturbance within the air, a tumult that struck against his heart. Would his nephew be spared amidst this calamity? He had sought God's mercy for the righteous, yet here stood Lot, unwitting and surrounded by the very wickedness the Almighty would not abide. Lot, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city, the angels urged with urgency. A flicker of hesitation marked Lot's heart, but the impending dawn harbored no grace for delay. Gripped by fear, he finally led his family out into the night, fleeing the impending destruction. As the sun rose upon the horizon, the heavens opened with great fury. The Lord rained down brimstone and fire upon Sodom and Gomorrah, consuming the cities and erasing their wickedness as one extinguishes a flame. Genesis 19 verses 24 to 25. In the aftermath, as Lot and his family gazed back upon the devastation, his wife turned to behold the destruction of the cities, and she became a pillar of salt. Genesis 19 verse 26. The weight of consequence was heavy, and a profound silence descended upon them, echoing with despair. Yet amidst this judgment lived a promise, a remnant saved from the ashes, a future still ordained in God's plan. For Lot had escaped, but his heart trembled at the cost of rebellion against the sacred. The path ahead was fraught with new trials, as the realities of what transpired would shape them into a unique legacy. Abraham, watching from afar, pondered deeply on divine mercy amidst judgment, sensing that in this calamity laid the profound workings of a sovereign God. But what remained unspoken, echoing in the hearts of all involved, was a question that would lead to a further revelation. How might the God of mercy still weave the tapestry of redemption from the threads of destruction? What of the generations to come, and how would this be woven into the faith of a new covenant? And as Lot and his daughters journeyed from the scorched earth, their hearts weighed down by grief and horror, the angels walked beside them, guiding their steps away from the ashes of Sodom and Gomorrah. Amidst the desolation, they urged Lot to flee to the mountains, but fear clouded Lot's mind. "Oh, my lords," he pleaded, "I cannot escape to the mountains, lest some evil overtake me and I die. Behold, this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither, is it not a little one? And my soul shall live." Genesis 19 verses 19 to 20. The angels, seeing the trembling of Lot's heart, granted his request. "See, we have accepted you concerning this thing also, that we will not overthrow this city for which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything till you arrive there." Genesis 19 verses 21 to 22. So Lot fled to the little city, called Zor, where he hoped to find refuge. Then the dawn broke, casting light upon the land still shrouded in the aftermath of judgment. The smoke of the cities rose as the smoke of a furnace, a testament to the fury of God's wrath. As Abraham looked toward Sodom, his heart sank with a weight of sorrow, for the cries of the innocent seemed lost amidst the shouts of the wicked. His intercession rang in his ears, "Will you destroy the righteous with the wicked?" Genesis 18 verse 23. In Zor, Lot sought to shelter with his daughters in the remnants of their former lives. Yet their hearts were besieged by what they had witnessed. They clung to one another, grieving the loss of their mother, the destruction of the cities that once thrived, and the sense of normalcy that had been violently stripped away. On a night heavy with sorrow, the daughters spoke to one another, saying, "There is no man to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father." Genesis 19 verses 31 to 32. Misguided by the desperation of their isolation, they resolved to father children by their own father, aiming to preserve a legacy through the very blood that coursed through their veins, and it came to pass that they fulfilled their desires under the cover of night, deceiving their father, who knew not of their deeds. From this union, each daughter bore a son from whom two nations would arise. The elder bore a child named Moab, and the younger named her son Ben-Ammi. Genesis 19 verses 37 to 38. Thus, the Ammonites and Moabites were born from the ashes of a tragic beginning, their bloodlines intertwined with the legacy of Lot. Meanwhile, Abraham continued to journey through the land, dwelling in tents, ever mindful of God's promise that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars. The loss of Lot weighed heavy upon him, but he remained steadfast in faith, believing that God's sovereignty would bring forth good even from the depths of despair. As the years passed, the legacy of Lot twisted through the annals of history. The very nations born of desperation would later bear enmity toward Israel, a fulfilling of God's word spoken from righteous foundations. And though the path of redemption seemed veiled in shadows, an echo of hope lingered hidden yet alive, for God's plan was not forsaken in judgment, but rather intricately woven even within it, bringing forth characters who would play pivotal roles in his unfolding narrative. As the heavens continued to watch, the question became one of wait and wonder: what other hidden paths of redemption lay before those who would one day seek the face of the Almighty? How would this difficult lineage reveal the depth of God's mercy and purpose in their trials? And it came to pass that after the daughters of Lot bore their sons, the years flowed like a river, and with them came the blessings and burdens of their heritage. Moab became the father of a great people, and Ben-Ammi the progenitor of a nation, yet the shadows of their beginnings lingered like a cloud over the land. As the children grew, Lot dwelled in Zoar, his spirit marked by despair. With each passing day, he wrestled with the sorrow of his past, haunted by the smoldering ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah, where his choices had led to ruin. The weight of the decisions made in a land of wickedness darkened his heart, yet divine mercy sought to stir within him a remnant of hope. One fateful morning, as the sun rose upon the mountains, Lot wandered from his dwelling, seeking solace in the hills. He climbed higher, away from the cries of his troubled daughters and the memories that would never fade. As he breathed in the cool air, he felt the gentle whisper of God calling him to remembrance, urging him to reflect on the promise still waiting to unfold through his lineage. Meanwhile, in distant lands, the sons of Lot began to carve their own futures. The Moabites grew strong, and the Ammonites prospered, yet their hearts were often turned away from the ways of the Lord. They knew not the God of Abraham, who had established a covenant of faithfulness and blessing. Instead, pride took root, and with it, enmity toward the descendants of Abraham began to sow discord. It was during this time that Lot's heart was stirred anew. He sought to intercede not just for his daughters, but for their offspring. "O Lord," he cried out, "remember the covenant you made with my uncle Abraham. May you turn the hearts of my sons to know your ways, that we might fulfill the promise given to our family." In his plea, there was a flicker of hope, a desire to usher in redemption amid the chaos. Then a certain priest of God named Melchizedek came forth, bringing forth bread and wine, a symbol of covenantal promise, saying unto Lot, "Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand." Genesis 14 verses 19-20. This divine visitation ignited a fire within Lot, reminding him of the greater purpose and the far-reaching implications of his lineage. In his renewed resolve, Lot descended from the mountains and rallied his daughters. "We shall raise our sons in the ways of the Lord," he proclaimed. "We will teach them the heritage of faith, not just the shadows of our past. For through them, God may yet bring forth a mighty nation that honors him." Yet the road ahead was fraught with challenges. The world was not kind to those who bore the marks of regret, and the history of their lineage loomed large. The Moabites and Ammonites struggled against the trials of their identity, seeking acceptance in a world that was quick to judge. As this narrative of redemption unfolded, a voice echoed in the heavens, proclaiming the stirring of events yet unseen. "For I have birched even through the ashes of despair, nations unto myself, and they shall know that I am the Lord. For out of these lines shall come forth a Redeemer who will reign forever." Thus, as the dawn of a new era approached, the question loomed heavily: how would the strife of these nations intertwine with God's larger plan? What astonishing reality lay ahead, woven intricately through the tapestry of redemption that was unfolding even from the ruins of sin? For the Creator, in his sovereign wisdom, was about to unveil his ultimate purpose, and the nations born of Lot would soon play a pivotal role in the ascending glory of his name. And it came to pass, in the days that followed, that Lot observed the countenance of his sons, Moab and Ben-Ammi, as they engaged in the ways familiar to them. Despite the struggles of their birth, their hearts were unyielding, and their pride grew alongside their strength. The land of Moab prospered, and the people reveled in their own might, yet the shadows of their ancestry remained a constant reminder of the covenant that had once illuminated their forefather Abraham's path. Thus, Lot, burdened by the desire for his sons to uncover their true identity, beseeched the Lord with earnestness. "O Lord," he cried in the stillness of the evening, "grant my sons the discernment of heart that they might pursue you above riches and valor. May they seek your face, for the remnants of despair must not define their legacy." And as Lot prayed, a wind stirred upon the hills, carrying with it an ancient voice that whispered words of prophecy: echoing in the depths of his soul. In a subsequent gathering, Lot called forth the leaders of the Moabite and Ammonite clans. "Listen to me, O children of my blood," he proclaimed with fervor. "You are the sons of covenant, the heirs of promise. The God of Abraham seeks to bestow upon us his grace and lead us to unity in his ways. Will you not turn your hearts toward him?" Yet, as he spoke, the prideful spirit within them wrestled against his words. A murmuring arose, heavy with disbelief and resistance. "Shall we relinquish our own greatness for the God of our fathers? We know not of his deeds nor his commandments, our strength is our own." At that moment, Lot's heart ached, for he remembered the righteous life of Abraham, and how through faith, he had wandered far from his home, trusting in the unseen promise. Lot knew that the struggle was not merely one of flesh, but an eternal battle for the souls of these nations. Surely the Almighty was not finished with them yet. Meanwhile, God's judgment loomed over the lands beyond, as the hearts of men grew darker, turning from wisdom to folly. Nations proclaimed their own gods and reveled in their abominations, casting the name of the Most High aside. It was then that the Lord addressed Lot, piercing through the silence of his despair with a vision of glory yet to be revealed. "Fear not, my servant," came the voice of the Almighty, "for though they stray, I will preserve a remnant among them. Through their unfaithfulness, my grace shall abound, and even from among the Moabites and Ammonites will arise a seed of hope. From their lines shall come forth Rahab, a harlot of Jericho, who shall be gathered into my fold and bestowed with a lineage that knows no bounds." Lot fell to his knees, awestruck by the magnitude of this revelation. "O sovereign Lord," he breathed, "your plans are beyond my comprehension. Would you weave such a tapestry of redemption through our weakness?" "Indeed," the Lord solemnly replied, "for I have chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. You shall not see the fullness of this promise in your lifetime, but know that out of desolation and despair, I am crafting a greater purpose that will resound through eternity." As the winds of change howled around him, Lot rose, emboldened yet humbled by his God's decree. He would not relent, and would teach his sons of the miraculous ways of the Lord, for the promise still flickered as a beacon of hope. Thus, the stage was set for God's grand design to come forth. The question emerged: how would the choices of Lot's sons intersect with the divine narrative unfolding through all nations? Would they accept their identity in the grace of God, or continue to tread their own path? For in the quiet of the evening, the heavens stirred with anticipation, ready to unveil a shocking truth, a destiny intertwined with mercy, waiting to illuminate the darkest of paths, for the Lord's sovereign plan was always more wondrous than they could imagine. And it came to pass, as days flowed into weeks, that Moab and Ben-Ammi began to ponder their father's words. Yet the intoxicating allure of pride rooted deep within their hearts resisted the whisper of wisdom. And one fateful day, as the sun cast its golden rays over the land, an emissary from a neighboring kingdom arrived in Moab, bearing words of temptation and promise. "Come, men of valor," he beckoned, "join us in battle, for we shall conquer the lands that do not bow to our might. Together, we shall forge an empire that the world shall never forget." Moab, with fire in his eyes, clutched his sword and said, "Let us seize this moment. We shall not wallow beneath the shadow of our forefathers but claim our destiny." Ben-Ammi hesitated, feeling the weight of his father's plea buried beneath the call to glory. Yet, the spirit of defiance entwined with dreams of greatness overwhelmed his inward struggle. They consulted the leaders of their clans, who cheered their resolve, chanting, "Victory is ours, sons of the mighty." Night fell, and the air was filled with the sounds of revelry, as they celebrated their new alliance. Little did they know, the presence of the Lord hovered above, watching with sorrowful wisdom. Meanwhile, Lot, filled with anguish for his sons, withdrew to the solitude of the mountain. There he poured out his heart like water before the Lord, saying, "O Lord of hosts, look upon my sons. Do not let the allure of power blind them, nor the quest for greatness sever their bond with you. For you, O God, are their true inheritance." That very night, the Lord answered him in a dream, unveiling a great and terrible vision. "The hearts of the kings are steered by my hand, Lot. I will allow a battle to ensue. Yet, within the chaos, I shall provide a sign. When the dust of war rises unyielding, there shall be a voice calling your sons to return. Awakened by the divine communication, Lot felt both fear and hope. Shall you give them another chance, O Lord? Will your mercy reign even in the midst of their stubborn pride? Indeed, the Lord spoke, my compassions are unfailing, and my grace is enough to reach the hearts of men, even when they stray far from the truth. They must choose, Lot, but I will not forsake them. As dawn broke, the armies gathered to wage war, their swords glinting ominously in the light. The battlefield became a tumult of shouts and clashing metal, echoing through the regions. Moab, realizing the reality of violence, felt a pang of regret in his heart. He turned to Ben-Ammi and asked, Is this the destiny we sought? Is this the greatness we desired? But before Ben-Ammi could reply, a fierce charge broke upon them, spending the fervor that had once fueled their ambition. In that moment of chaos, a cry rang out from within the turmoil, a voice he recognized well. It rose above the clamoring storm, unwavering and clear. Repent! The God of your father calls to you. Return to him, for he awaits with open arms. It was the voice of a warrior filled with the Spirit of the Lord, a man unknown to them, yet filled with righteousness. The clash ceased momentarily as the armies paused in awe, and the heart of Moab quivered. Father's God! He exclaimed, as the name echoed in the depths of his being, igniting a flicker of hope for what lay ahead. Will we heed the call? Ben-Ammi asked breathlessly. In that instant, the divine revelation crystallized in their hearts, leading them to a juncture of faith amid adversity. Let us return! Moab shouted, casting aside his sword. And with newfound courage, both brothers turned to retrace their steps home, seeking the wisdom of their father and the embrace of the Almighty. Thus began the unfolding of God's greater design, a transformation born of struggle, where even the proudest hearts could soften to receive his love. For as the path before them grew uncertain, a sovereign purpose loomed over their lives, waiting to be unveiled with glorious intent. Yet, as they journeyed toward redemption, the question arose: would they grasp the depth of their calling and walk in the ways of the Lord, or would they once again be ensnared by the fleeting glimmer of worldly power? The heavens held their breath, poised to reveal the answer to the fervent prayer of the righteous. As the dust settled from the chaos of battle, Moab and Ben-Ammi rushed back toward the mountain, hearts pounding with the urgency of their newfound revelation. They sought the counsel of their father, Lot, who had remained vigilant in prayer, fervently interceding for their return even amidst his own heartache. The echoes of the battlefield still rang in their ears, but now their hearts beat in unison with the rhythm of grace. When they reached the dwelling, Lot stood awaiting them, eyes filled with tears of relief and joy. My sons! He exclaimed, embracing them tightly, you have returned. The Lord has answered my prayers. Come, let us rejoice in the mercy we have received. With trembling voices, they recounted the battle, the voice from the heavens that had called them back, and the truth that bloomed within their spirits. Lot listened intently, his heart swelling with gratitude for the God who had not turned his back on their family amidst the shadows of despair. Indeed, the Lord is gracious, Lot affirmed, and his call to you is a testament of his enduring love for the generations. They gathered as a family, and in that sacred moment of unity, Moab and Ben-Ammi made a solemn vow to follow the ways of the Lord, teaching their children the heritage of their faith, the promise woven through the lives of Abraham and Lot. We shall not fear our ancestry, Ben-Ammi declared, for God has made a way for us to rise and bear witness to his glory. Thus, within the mountains of Zor, a new legacy began to take root, a lineage transformed by faith, the sons of Lot committed to honor the call of the Most High God. They shared the stories of their forefathers, the miraculous promises, the covenant kept. The very act of remembrance breathed new life into their hearts, dispelling the shadows that had threatened to consume them. As the seasons turned, the land flourished under the guiding hand of the Almighty. The Moabites and Ammonites emerged, not as nations steeped in shame, but as peoples destined to encounter glory. Their hearts, once ensnared by pride and fear, now reverberated with a call to uphold the covenant that had sparked their identity. Through trials and triumphs, they sought to turn their people toward the living God. One fateful day, during an assembly, Moab stood before the clans gathered in reverence, and spoke of the importance of their heritage. Let us never forget the mercy that brought us back from the edge. The God who spared us from destruction has designs yet to unfold. From our lineage shall arise those who will bless not only our tribes but the wider world. Like our forefather Abraham, let us walk in faith, not by sight. As the people listened, a collective stirring awakened within them, a spiritual awakening to blueprints etched in the heavens. The commitment of Lot's sons reverberated through the generations, igniting an unquenchable thirst for righteousness in a world rife with turmoil. They sought wisdom from God's word, guiding their lives as they endeavored to create a legacy of faith, but even as they thrived, the shadow of lineage remained a reminder of the past. The Moabites and Ammonites fought against tides of temptation, hardships and conflicts weaving through their history, testing their resolve. Yet, amidst their struggles, the rays of promise and hope warmed their spirits, needing no testimony other than the faithfulness of the Lord who had called them forth. And so it was that generations passed, and from these nations came an unexpected turn in the divine narrative, a lineage where hearts inclined toward grace would sow seeds of redemption. Among them an unlikely heroine, Rahab, a Canaanite woman, who heard of the miracles surrounding Israel, drew closer to the God of Abraham, entrenching herself in faith. She played a pivotal role in God's unfolding plan, becoming a crucial ancestor in the lineage leading to the Messiah. As she sought refuge from the darkness of her beginnings, her life woven into the tapestry of God's grace became a beacon for many. Through her faith, God demonstrated yet again that no history, no matter how marred, could thwart his design for redemption, and as all things unfolded, history echoed the heartbeat of divine hope, a testament of redemption, a promise kept. The path carved by the faith of one family beckoned the entire world to seek the face of God, to embrace grace and mercy amidst their trials. Let all who read this narrative remember the power of a singular choice: the choice to embrace faith, the choice to return to the promise. For God is ever faithful, weaving a story far beyond our understanding, a story that beckons each of us to yield to his call and share in the chorus of grace. So join your hearts in prayer. Seek the Lord, for he is a God who sees, who provides, and who redeems. Share your faith with those around you, and carry this truth into every conversation. If your spirit is moved today by the faithfulness of God and his capacity for redemption, do not delay. Subscribe immediately to ensure you won't miss another profound testimony of his goodness. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, bringing hope to those who seek it. Comment below your spiritual reflections and how this story has impacted your faith. And remember, you need to share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear of God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, for only true believers understand the importance of supporting sacred content that lives on to reach more souls for Christ. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony.